Hello viewers of The Pioneer, how are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. Today, I'm on your screens again to convey to you the latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine war. I will soon convey to you the latest developments regarding a scandal that the Russian armed forces have recently carried out. As we have stated in our latest reports, the Russian armed forces made a move that caused heavy losses. The Russian armed forces, which activated their air defense systems to stop the attacks of the Ukrainian armed forces, opened irreparable wounds in the Belgorod Oblast. The consequences of the events caused by the Russian armed forces in the Belgorod Oblast seems to have been quite effective. We believe that these actions of the Russian armed forces are the results of panic. Realizing that the Ukrainian army would respond to the Russian aggression against civilian settlements in Ukraine, the panicked actions of the Russian armed forces seems to have caused major incidents in Russia. However, the mistakes of the Russian armed forces were not limited to the Belgorod Oblast. The Voronezh region of the Russian Federation was also hit by the Russian armed forces. So, what are the details of this event? Let's examine it together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to convey the Russia-Ukraine war to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. We also want to produce more content to you. Which topics do you think we should cover to the Pioneer channel? Your thoughts on this subject are very important to us. Please share with us in the comments. Let's start if you are ready, the Pioneer reports. Voronezh region is located in the south of the Russian Federation. It is relatively close to Ukraine, but still quite far from the main conflict zone. Recent reports indicate that there have been strong and effective explosions in the Voronezh region. It is stated by the local sources that the balance sheet of the explosions in Voronezh is also heavy. According to reports, the Russian Air Force took off again to hit the targets in Ukraine. As you know, the Russian Air Force has been conducting its operations outside Ukrainian airspace for some time. The reason for this is clear. The heavy losses suffered by the Ukrainian army to the Russian Air Force in recent days have made the Russian war leadership very uneasy. However, of course, it is not necessary for the Russian warplanes to enter Ukrainian airspace in order for the Ukrainian army to harm the Russian Air Force. Many times before, the Ukrainian army had struck Russian air bases and destroyed fighter jets belonging to the Russian army. Let's share an interesting detail in this regard. Satellite images taken from the Russian airspace recently revealed the fear of the Russian Air Force. In the images in question, it is seen that the drawings in the form of the Russian airplanes or models of the Russian warplanes are placed on the ground. These images make it clear that the impact of the losses suffered by the Russian Air Force is great. We see that the Russian Air Force is making many mistakes, one after another. What happened in the Voronezh region is one of these mistakes. Recently, Russian officials announced that the fighter jets of the Russian Air Force accidentally hit the Voronezh region. In this statement, Russian officials reported that many houses in the western part of the Voronezh were destroyed and there were casualties. In the images spread on social media, the presence of a large number of debris in the Voronezh region is clearly visible. The full statement of the Russian Defense Ministry on the subject is as follows. In the morning, an emergency release of the air ammunition took place while a fighter aircraft of my Air Force was flying over the village of Petropavlovka in the Voronezh region. An investigation into the circumstances of the incident is underway. A commission is working on the ground to assess the nature of the damage and assist it to restoration of buildings. Following the statements from the Russian Defense Ministry, Anton Grashchenko, an advisor to the Ukrainian Interior Ministry, also made statements on the subject on his social media account. Grashchenko made the following statements on the subject. Russian authorities have confirmed that a Russian missile has fallen into the Voronezh region of Russia. During Russia's missile attack on Ukraine, Russians in the region in the path of the missiles must go to shelters. The Russian army is a threat to Russians. It is claimed by local sources that there are heavy casualties in the region. However, it is not possible to say that a healthy information is coming from the region at the moment. Official sources claim that there were no casualties in the explosion. Voronezh region governor Alexander Gusevi's statements about the absence of the casualties are as follows. There was no loss of life in our region, there is only material damage. Our teams continue their investigations in the field. We expect our citizens to maintain their calmness. We will temporarily relocate our citizens whose houses have been damaged to shelters. At it is seen, the Russian Air Force caused a major accident and destruction while continuing its efforts to hit Ukraine. We can say that this failure of the Russian Air Force is now related to the inability to operate over Ukrainian airspace. After Russia's attempts to hit Ukraine, the Ukrainian Air Force mobilized again. According to reports, unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian Air Force responded to the Russian attacks in Belgorod. Belgorod started to hear air warning sirens from the early hours of the morning. Unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces entered the Belgorod region of the Russian Federation from early morning. The targets of the Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles were the bases and outposts of the Russian army in the region. According to reports, there are arrivals at some points. However, we can't get confirmation from the region, but local sources say that there is a great panic and fear in local population. In addition, Belgorod residents' anger toward the Russian leadership has increased. The people of the Belgorod no longer want to be part of the war. However, the moves of the Russian authorities bring the Belgorod people face to face with the war. The events taking place here will affect the elections to be held in the Russian Federation. More precisely, Russian citizens who don't want to live in this environment should use the elections very well. As can be seen, air superiority in the war has gained great importance. As we have frequently stated in our previous reports, the entry of F-16 fighter jets into the field will change the balances in the war. Therefore, faster action should be taken on the F-16 fighter jets to deliver to the Ukrainian Air Force. Otherwise, it will have a negative impact on Ukraine. The European continent and the entire Western world, Russian aggression and expansionism must be pushed beyond Ukraine's borders. What do you think? How do you think the Russian people will react to the Russian Air Force's wrong moves? Do you think the Russian Air Force is in a panic? Do you think the people of Belgorod will react to the Russian air leadership? How do you assess the attacks of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Belgorod region? Do you think F-16 fighter jets will change the fate of the war? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.